Welcome to worship in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. Listen, writes poet W.S. Merwin. Listen, with the night falling, we are saying thank you. After that, thank yous begin cascading down in his poem. From bridges, from glass rooms, with our mouths full of food, we say thank you. Standing by the water, standing at windows, looking out, we say thank you. What's surprising, perhaps, is the poet's inclination to keep saying thank you in hospitals, after funerals, remembering wars and police and beatings, with animals dying and forests falling. And he ends, thank you, we are saying and waving, dark though it is. Perhaps the poet is on to something. Maybe thank you, maybe gratitude isn't simply reserved for the good times, for the times of peace and harmony and bounty, when all is as we would wish for it to be. So today, dark though in so many ways it is, we nonetheless are saying, thank you. We are saying, we are praying, we are feeling, we are singing, thank you.
There are times when the light within all of us is extinguished and then rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us should think with deep gratitude of the times when someone within this congregation has relit that flame.
For
Welcome to today's service. We're honored to have guests here with us today, and our members would like to greet you following the service. So that we may do so, if you are visiting, please raise your hand and keep it up. Members, take a look around and take note of the guests seated near you. After the service, invite them to join you for coffee and conversation in Freeman Hall. Should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find both a large print order of service and a personal hearing assistance device on the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card. You'll find them, along with offering envelopes, on the clipboards at the end of the row. Please begin passing them down your row. Members with a life event to share can indicate that on the reverse side of the card. Put your completed yellow cards in the offering basket when they are passed later in the service. Some returning visitors may be interested in hearing about how to become a member. If so, please talk with our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. Her contact information is also on the back of the order. Again, to each of you, welcome.
We are blessed by every forest. Every forest makes us whole with its richness and its beauty. Every forest feeds our soul. We are blessed We are blessed by every creature. Every creature makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. Every creature feeds our soul.
Just so you will know, those kids arrived before 8:30 this morning and sang in our 9:15 service, and that's why they're leaving now, because they've been through this service along with their parents one time already. Our reading this morning is from Sharon Welch, from her book, Sweet Dreams in America, Making Ethics and Spirituality Work. She writes, working on issues of identity, of justice, of homelessness, of the oppression of women is extremely urgent, serious, worthy of the best of our time and intention, and quite literally a matter of life and death. The ground of challenging exploitation, injustice, and oppression is not a vision of how the world could be or will be in the reign of God or after the revolution. The ground of challenging injustice is gratitude. The heartfelt desire to honor the wonder of that which is, to cherish, to celebrate, to delight in the many gifts and joys of life. It was a long ago November, my last autumn as a student at Furman University. I attended a campus-wide Thanksgiving convocation primarily to hear Chaplain L.D. Johnson, a man I admired and loved. We didn't know then that it would be his last public address. Craggy, wizened face, broad, bald pate surrounded by tufts of white hair, his body ravaged by the cancer that would in weeks take him from us. LD moved slowly, deliberately to the podium, leaned into the microphone, and calmly declared, I still remember it clearly, I cannot, in good conscience, preach a business as usual Thanksgiving sermon this year. Our beloved chaplain proceeded to offer a lengthy litany of all the many reasons he just couldn't summon up some warm homily about a bountiful harvest brought home. He voiced his distress over the Reagan administration's cynical trickery and its trickle-down policy, widening the already gaping gulf between the haves and the have-nots. He decried our nation's military-industrial complex with its insatiable appetite for more and more of our national budget. He denounced our nation's role as arms dealer to the world. He continued through a stern recitation of social ills, standing in his very waning days still so firmly rooted in the best of progressive religion's long prophetic tradition. All of this, he said, made him unable to indulge in some traditional giving of thanks. Now, so very many years later, I echo L.D. Johnson's somber assessment. It feels unseemly to engage in an aggrandizing celebration in a time when the balance of things tilts ever more precariously toward the haves and away from the have-nots. When the specter of centuries of systemic racism shows up week after week in acts of police brutality. When a nation of immigrants is closing its doors, deporting and building new barriers. When in story after story, we're being reminded that patriarchy and sexual assault have no ideological or political boundaries, that men have abused and are still abusing their power, that women, that other men, that trans folks suffer at the hands and from the bodies of those now asking us to accept their long overdue self-indulgent apologies. I don't think I have it in me today to muster some Mayflower mythology. I'm fairly confident that many of you might find it difficult in these times to sit through a simple business as usual Thanksgiving sermon. A pilgrim's story never rooted in the remotest sort of reality now rings with the very supremacy and exceptionalism that marks and mars so much of our nation's history. Who of us has even the scantest spiritual appetite for one more serving from that flawed feast? What then do we do today, this week? Suffer in silence under the enormous weight of our enormous concerns? Rage and rage and rage against the dying of the right? Simply sit it out, smirk with self-righteous judgment at those giving thanks, further to divide by arrogantly denouncing the thoughts and prayers of others. Theologian Sharon Welch offers us another option, another perspective. It doesn't ask us to cross our fingers or check our minds at the door. It doesn't indulge in denial. It is, at least for me, a course of considerable hope. Of course, we must challenge injustice. But, Sharon Welch writes, the ground for challenging exploitation, injustice, and oppression is not a vision of how the world could be or will be in the future, in the reign of God or after the revolution. The ground of challenging injustice is, Sharon Welch, contemporary Unitarian Universalist theologian, believes the ground of challenging injustice is gratitude. Is, she says, the heartfelt desire to honor the wonder of that which is, to cherish, to celebrate, to delight in the many gifts and joys of life. Sharon Welch does not believe we can despair or rage our way to something hopeful. She believes that courage, that transformation, that persistence they actually spring from a deep reservoir of vitality and joy. Joy in living fully and well. Joy in breathing, she says, walking, running, dancing, making love. The joy of touch, smell, and taste. The joy of music that soars, laughing, raging, desiring, delighting, exalting in the wonders of life. It really all comes down to this. Sharon Welch believes it is only when we are truly, deeply grateful for this world that we will regard it as worth saving. It's only when we feel some deep capacity to appreciate our world that we will be motivated to make it a better place. Ironically, then, for us today, Sharon Welch is suggesting that the antidote to despair is, after all, thanksgiving. Seeing, appreciating, engaging our deep, heartfelt desire to honor the wonder. She's not suggesting that everything is okay. Not that at all. She's not suggesting one more business as usual Thanksgiving sermon. She is suggesting that if we cannot appreciate what is, we will not sustain a vision of what can be. If we cannot feel deep gratitude, we may not undertake the hard work of justice making. If we are despondent and despairing, cynical and caustic, belittling and bemoaning, we deplete our capacity to make a difference. It is the beautiful world that is worth fighting for. It's the world still filled with wonder that is worth struggling for. It's the world that can still render us speechless in awe that is the world worth transforming. Asada Shakur. Asada Shakur, fierce and courageous warrior for justice. A woman who has endured so much that is so wrong, was still able to see it. The world she affirmed in the profoundest affirmation of faith. The world, in spite of oppression, is a beautiful place. Who are we to argue?
Good morning. My name is Mike Long. I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, went off to college, and then headed to New York City, where I met my wife, Heather. After 15 years there and the birth of our first child, we decided to move to Charlotte, where we've lived for the past 28 years. Raised Roman Catholic, our route to this congregation was a little bit unusual, even by Unitarian Universalist standards. I didn't know anyone here. I didn't know what a Unitarian Universalist was. So I went for the old yellow pages, and I circled the churches that sounded interesting. I called here, and I spoke with a Betsy Leatherland, and she very patiently explained to me what Unitarian Universalism was all about. I was stunned. I had no idea that there were religions like this one. After signing that membership book, I haven't had a moment's regret. This place is my neighborhood, it's my Cheers bar, it's my community, it's my extended family, and I thank you. I can't imagine where I would be today, what I would be like, what my adult daughters would be like without having walked through these doors 25 years ago. Well, enough about me. The reason I'm here today is to represent the Memorial Endowment Trust, or MET. There are two ways to financially support the great work going on here at UUCC. The most important way to support our congregation by far is the annual pledge. This is what allows us to experience the loving community that we have. The other way to contribute is the Memorial Endowment Trust. Founded 35 years ago as a way to further support our liberal religious mission, it's governed by 5 trustees here with the money managed by outside professionals. It invests along with 330 other Unitarian Universalist congregations, which is overseen by a separate board. Importantly, our fund is invested in socially responsible ways, and it has also outperformed its peers consistently over the past 10 years. Every year, the MET solicits and then selects grant proposals from the congregation to provide funds for worthy projects. Past projects have ranged from the audio-visual system we've installed throughout this building to replacing chairs in CYRE and ODS. And also the latest funding is the anti-racism training, something you'll be hearing a lot more about soon. Most people give money to the MET in memory of a loved one, to honor someone, or to celebrate a special occasion. But there's another way to support the MET, the Legacy Society. After you've decided to leave a portion of your estate to the MET, you simply notify us that you've done so. Currently, we have over 58 families who are part of our Legacy Society. Now we have a special incentive to join the Legacy Society. The UU congregation of Shelter Rock, New York, came up with a clever way to encourage UUs to make long-term legacy gifts that support UU principles. They called it Wake Now Our Vision, and they funded it with $5 million. And the Memorial Endowment Trust qualifies. You name the MET in your will for the first time, or you increase the amount you've already bequeathed, and Shelter Rock gives an additional 10% of that amount to the MET. Tom Cole and Carol Hartley are our first participants, and they told me that it was very simple. Please come by our table in Freeman Hall after the service so that we can answer your questions. To those of you who have already entrusted us with your resources, helping us make a difference in the life of this congregation and the larger community, please accept our deep gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, trustees of our Memorial Endowment Trust, and especially to those of you who have generously supported this congregation in that way. There's added incentive today for you to step over into Freeman Hall following the service. Today, our open door school is hosting their annual bake sale after the service. No sales during the service, but I invite you to go over and take advantage of what they're offering in support of the finest preschool in Charlotte. Tuesday evening, the McMinn Interfaith Thanksgiving service will be held. There's information in your order about that. This is a service this congregation helped begin decades ago. There's also information there about how to participate in our Room in the End effort. Other information about adult programming in the life of this congregation. We hope you will avail yourselves of everything that we're offering these days.
We were blessed by a minister who practiced what he preached. We were blessed by a poor man who said heaven was within reach. We were blessed by the girl selling roses who showed us how to live. We were blessed by the neglected child who knew how to forgive. We were blessed by the battered woman who didn't seek revenge. We were blessed by the warrior who didn't need to live. We were blessed by the blind man who could see for miles and miles. We were blessed by the fighter who didn't fight for the prize. We were blessed by the mother who gave up her child. We
I invite us to a time of meditation and aspiration, the opportunity to breathe deeply together in silence. We pause in the middle of so much that demands our attention. So much that distracts and detracts. So much that breaks our hearts. We pause and remember. We were blessed. We are blessed. We name now in the silence of our hearts that for which and those for whom we are most grateful. We were blessed. We are blessed. May gratitude, may appreciation, may our heartfelt desire for wonder sustain and encourage and embolden us for the days which lie ahead. Amen.
This congregation is our spiritual home and helps us lead meaningful, productive lives in times of need and joy. So please show your appreciation as we pass the collection baskets.
We have the welcomed opportunity now to welcome to this congregation a few of our newest members. So new members, I'll call your name, and when I do, I'll invite you to come forward and sign our membership book. It includes the signatures of most of the folks who've ever been members here in this congregation. And then if you will, take your place behind me. Bring your order of service forward with you so we can share in a litany with you when everyone has been called forward. Tara Anderson. Tara was originally from Ohio, raised her son in Rhode Island, where she was an active member there of a Unitarian Universalist congregation. She's worked at a middle school as a math teacher and now as a facilitator and teacher coach. Tara and her partner moved to Charlotte 4.5 years ago with their 2 dogs to enjoy a warmer climate. Tara Anderson. Anna Amaget and Will Freed, also their children Michelle and Cecilia. After living in New England and in California, they settled here in Charlotte 4 years ago. They enjoy living here with these 2 wonderful daughters, Anna and Will. Erica Blake. Erica came to Charlotte after 20 years in Texas, where she was a member of a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Erica writes, I am a proud immigrant, a naturalized citizen, and every day I'm grateful to live in the United States. I look forward to meeting the always fascinating members of this Unitarian Universalist congregation. I agree with you, Erica. Rebecca Cheatham, Eric Wilhelm, their children Dexter and Luna. North Carolina natives who just returned from a 1.5 decades in New York City. They write, we are a musical, goofy family with curious minds and a love of humor and music. Rebecca and Eric. Eric, your papa would be proud right now. His name is in that book somewhere, I'm sure. Margaret Choka. Margaret is from Greenville, South Carolina, my hometown. She's lived in Charlotte for 14 years, works in information technology. She has a daughter who's currently a senior at Myers Park High School. She writes, I've been a visitor many times and finally decided to join. Looking forward to being a part of the community. Margaret Choka. Elaine Connors, and our man on the skins, Patrick Sullivan. Elaine and Patrick are longtime Unitarian Universalists who moved to Charlotte in 2009 to be closer to their beloved grandchildren. Elaine is a painter, and Patrick is writing a screenplay. Delighted to be a part of this congregation. Elaine Connors and Patrick Sullivan. Catherine Covington East. Catherine retired from a career as a hospice nurse in early 2017. She's widowed with 2 grown sons and a daughter-in-law. Catherine writes, I look forward to forging a new spiritual family in the UUCC in this new phase of my life. Catherine Covington East. Christopher Graves. Christopher was born and raised in Philadelphia, lived and worked in Ohio, developed confidence as a soloist in Ohio, and began a professional career there that is now going on 32 years. Christopher is relocating without our permission to Florida, but intends to be a long-distance member of this congregation until he finds something better. Good luck on that. Christopher Graves. You're moving to Ohio, says Florida here. You're not going to find anything better in Ohio. just so you understand. Will Hashimi. Will writes, I'm just going to read this, Will. I arrived in Charlotte by locomotive in the year 1992. I'm proud to be from the Hornet's Nest, the great state of Mecklenburg. Charles King. Military service, Charles writes, is common in my family and has helped me see the world. I'm new to Charlotte, but this is about the 20th city that I've lived in now. Charles is interested in environmental stewardship, has already gotten involved in our environmental justice emphasis, and in getting outside for exercise. Julie Kluker. Julie is a native Charlottean, grew up in this congregation, has a bachelor's degree in anthropology, has been a vegetarian since the age of 6, recently was engaged. Welcome back, Julie Kluker. John and Mary Lee. John and Mary just moved to Charlotte this spring after living in Chevy Chase, Maryland for 37 years. Upon the sale of their consulting business, they've moved here to be close to their daughter and her family. Retirement, they say, opens new opportunities for us to travel and undertake new volunteer commitments. Have we got a deal for you? We're excited, they say, about joining the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. Kendra Martin. Kendra, make it. Yes. Welcome, Kendra. Relocated to Charlotte last year with their husband, 2 dogs, and a cat. Baby number 1 is now on the way with an expected arrival of April 2018. Kendra is a recruiting manager for the hospitality industry, enjoys hiking, kayaking, traveling, and cooking in her spare time. Grateful to finally live in a city full of trees and to have been so warmly welcomed into the UUCC and especially into the Gen X women's group. Kendra Martin. Scott and Stephanie Smith with their children Eliana and Caleb. Family of 4 that's lived in Charlotte for 2 years, originally from the Detroit area, but have also lived in the Tampa area and in Northern Virginia. Scott is a web developer. Stephanie is a stay-at-home mother for now. Ellie and Caleb are 6 and 4. Scott and Stephanie Smith. Marcia Vigil. Every Sunday, Marcia writes, I very much enjoy each service. Thoughtful, enlightening, and mind-expanding. Also enjoy being in nature, learning more about nature and science, and working with young people. In our first service, we welcomed Ann Bloom, Daniel De La Cruz and Naomi Spencer, Topher Gee, Austin Hicks, Allison Hunt, and Charles Pilkey. If you are a member of this congregation, I invite you now to stand so that we can share in a litany of welcoming with these, some of our newest members. From a variety of places, an extensive array of circumstances, a wide range of religious traditions, our paths now meet here in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. Today we celebrate these who have recently found their ways to us and have become ones of us.
We welcome those of you who are new to this congregation. May you find here inspiration for your individual journeys, support in times of trouble, encouragement in moments of despair, fellow celebrants in your occasions of joy, and the ongoing challenge to be your best selves. May you give of yourselves
after the closing music.
As some of you are aware, I've had the deep honor and privilege of relating closely to some of the fierce activists in our town and Charlotte uprising. These young, mostly people of color, have led us in challenging the way Charlotte is and in calling us to a community where justice is more evident. My role's largely been behind the scenes in personal conversation with people I've learned to love and respect. My conversation over and over and over again with these young activists is about what sustains them, what keeps them going. And I keep challenging them, saying, anger won't sustain you. You can't get angry enough to sustain this work. You've got to find some deeper resource. You've got to have spiritual grounding. You have to have soul force. We can't get angry enough. We can't get derisive enough. We can't post enough nonsense on Facebook to sustain us. We have to be grounded. We have to have a spiritual resource. Sharon Welch suggests, try gratitude. Try being grateful for what is. Try cherishing the beauty in this world, so you will know again that it is worth fighting for. Please be seated.